Welcome to Seeing Red. It is Monday, April 1st, 2024. There will be no pranks. I think the internet has gotten too old for pranks on April Fool's Day. Instead, I just woke up, told my children I was leaving them, and then walked out the door.
Well,
Like,
they didn't fall for it though, right?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know where they are right now. But anyway, I am Will Leitch here, as always, with the great Bernie Miklasz, as the first weekend of the Cardinals season has just wrapped up. We'll get into the details of it in a moment. But first, I will remind you to follow us on Twitter/X at Seeing Red. Email seeingredpod@gmail.com. We got plenty of good questions. Plenty of one of my favorite things. We'll get to this in a moment as the podcast goes along, Bernie. Is people I think that I'm very honored that some people listen to Seeing Red enough that it feels like part of the Cardinal fan experience. So we've had some people share with us kind of their real time reactions to games in a way that is satisfying. I will say, if sometimes harrowing. But first off, I am in Florida. I'm in Miami. I'm actually in West Palm Beach right now. I will be tonight. I will be watching the Marlins host the Angels, my yearly game. I get to see Mike Trout, which will be good in the 0-4 Miami Marlins is Skip Shoemaker. Already probably pretty frustrated. But we will get into all of that because who cares? This is a Marlins podcast. I assume there is no such thing as a Marlins podcast. This is a Cardinals podcast. The Cardinals went 1-3 over the weekend. And I think you could make an argument that 1-3 is probably what their record should have been, though you could probably switch the two games that they won. They probably should have lost on Saturday and should have won on Sunday. But there was a moment there where it looked like, wow, the Cardinals somehow might escape this weekend going 2-2. And I think that says a lot about the Cardinals, about the Dodgers, about the Cardinals' injuries that they have right now, about some of the bullpen issues, the way the games kind of went down. I really felt like if they would have gone 2-2, they would have like danced between the raindrops and somehow escaped heading into Saturday's game, Bernie. I thought, oh, they are totally getting swept. I read your piece saying everyone root for a rainout because it was kind of looking like that. All told, 1-3 is obviously not how you want to start your season. Sunday's loss was a frustrating loss. However, I have a hard time walking away from this thinking, oh my gosh, everything's doomed, everything's terrible. There were some things that were obviously not great. I will confess, and maybe this is because I just watched the Illini lose by 30 points. There were a lot of things I was actually encouraged by Saturday and even to a lesser extent Sunday. What's your takeaway from the weekend?
I'm pretty much with you. I'm sure some of our wonderful people who listen to us, and as always, thank you very, very much for your support of Seeing Red. But I'm sure some people want us, maybe I don't know, maybe want us to bring the hammer about a lot of things. There are some things to hammer for sure, but I'm like you. Yeah, it was frustrating to see them squander a lead Saturday night, especially, it's not like you had some scared rookie out there on the mound in the ninth inning. I mean, to have Ryan Helsley cough up a lead, that was very disappointing because he's a guy that should, fasten things down. But they got away with it, to their credit. They got away with it. Um, the next night, though, it was harder to take because you have a 4-0 lead. The Dodgers are all kinds of weird things are happening. They're walking people, they're hitting a guy, and another catcher's interference. And the table was set for more runs than they scored. I mean, I think if that bases loaded strikeout by Nolan Gorman and the sixth was a really big play because if he gets a big hit there, they probably have enough cushion, even though the bullpen was shorthanded and all that. But still, I mean, come on, you go into the bottom of the sixth with a 4-0 lead. I know it's the mighty Dodgers and all that, but you got to get that game in the win column. So I thought that was the biggest disappointment. The fact that it was right there. A series split was right there, and they just let it get away. Is it a big deal? No, it just was disappointing. That's all. And I'm with you. The weird thing about it is, the Cardinals offense really wasn't really that good, but if you kind of look at it, there's like 9 teams in the National League that have scored fewer runs so far. I mean, so there's a lot of teams, a lot of pitching staffs were getting pounded over the first week, really pounded. So the Cardinals weren't very good, but and not that this really matters, but just for perspective, there were a lot of teams who pitched worse and a lot of teams who hit worse than the Cardinals, for whatever that's worth. I think, you know what the point is? You know what the takeaway is? That it's sort of my old, tired, annoying thing. It's like, that's why it's a 162 game schedule. No conclusions to be drawn right now. You move on. Hopefully they go win a series in San Diego.
Yeah, and I think part of it too, there were two of it, particularly after the first two games where it felt like the Cardinals were not even the same in the same league
Right.
as the Dodgers. I think there was a lot of frustration. There's two ways to look at it. One is the way that frankly I'm kind of looking at it was like, okay, there's two ways to look at it. One is not the way I'm looking at it, which is the Cardinals aren't even in the same league with the Dodgers. What are we trying to do here? The Cardinals should aspire to this higher standards. They are not humble Midwestern farmers in the parlance of the shockingly shelled Miles Michaelis in game one. And it's embarrassing the Cardinals would put themselves in a situation where they could not compete with the best team in baseball like this and look that bad against them. That's one way to look at it. I certainly saw a lot of that after the first couple of games. The other way to look at it is not only is this Dodgers team unusually good, and boy, they sure look like they've solved some of their pitching problems, by the way. They've got never mind Yamamoto looking good. Miller looked amazing. Like some of those dudes look like the Dodgers look like they've got more pitching than I think people kind of realize they did. And also, this is like, listen, you're not using injuries as an excuse, but the Cardinals are missing like a lot of guys. Like, I feel like I'm not saying that that it's not the end of the world and that like they shouldn't be able to figure out a way to win anyway, but this is not 100% Cardinals team, which is why a split would have felt so incredible, frankly, because this Dodgers team as currently constituted is a lot better than this Cardinals team as currently constituted. So a split would have felt so amazing. But I will say, and again, maybe this was having just watched the Illini game, I found the Saturday game, as frustrating as the Helsley thing was, very encouraging. Very encouraging for a lot of ways.
It was resilient. It was resilient. Yep.
Yeah, and I have to say, like as a member of team, hey, it's actually going to be kind of cool to have Lance Lynn back, and maybe they could use a little Lance Lynn stuff. That first inning sure felt that way, right? Like there was not a single Cardinals pitcher last year who was able to like grit that out the way he did in that first inning. The idea that, like, we're also reminded that Lance Lynn still throws really hard. Like, I think there's this idea that the Cardinals just have these soft tossing, rely on defense veteran guys. I actually thought Lynn, like, he's throwing hard. He looks good. He's smart. That was not old Wainwright trying to wiggle his way out of a jam. That was Lynn throwing the ball past dudes in a way that was very exciting. And I think spoke to, the Cardinals had 5 different moments in that game where they had the Dodgers down to their last strike and were unable to close them out. On one hand, that's not great. On the other hand, that did not stop them from winning. And I think that game on Saturday with the veteran like if you're going to make the case for the Cardinals this year, you can make a lot of it. And not only that, but why they're better than last year. Saturday is that case. The idea that you've got guys that have been there before. Crawford helps out. Carpenter helps out. Burleson, who did not really have a great weekend, but he certainly helped out in that game. And obviously, Lynn helps out in that game. Veteran dudes not cracking when, frankly, after the Cardinals got wiped out in the first 2 games and there's the bases loaded, nobody out in the top of the first on Saturday. I'm like, well, this is going to be a very long weekend and a very long day for them to gut through that and fight through that. It doesn't make them better than the Dodgers, but it certainly makes them, I would argue, a team that can compete in the NL Central.
Well, and Lynn it was fantastic to watch him. Was I surprised he struck out the side after loading the bases? Yeah. But was I stunned? No, because he fights. I mean, he's a fighter and he still has really good swing and miss stuff. Even last year he did when he gave up all those home runs. He was still getting guys to swing and miss a lot. He's had one of the highest, like if you look at the metrics, one of the highest rated metrics by Sports Info Solutions in terms of swing and miss stuff. Let's face it, he only went 4 innings and we understand why. You wanted to see more, but after nearly a 40-minute rain delay, I don't think it would have been wise to bring him out. But the fact that he only went 4 innings wasn't his fault. That's my point. And then, I thought Steven Matz looked really good.
Yeah. That's what Matz is supposed to parse why they signed him in the first place.
He looked really, really good. I mean, there's no reason to try to parse it. 5 and a third, but then again, you would have liked to have seen him go full 6. but he was on a pitch count, and I do understand that. That's modern baseball. I don't like it, but I understand it. But he looked really, really good. I mean, the Dodger the changeup was fantastic. I mean, he moved that four-seam fastball all over the place. I mean, it was really good. So they got two crummy starts. And they got two, under the circumstances, two really good starts. Not ideal starts, but two really good starts. So that's one of the positive things I take away from that. I mean, Lynn and Matz, they showed up and they did a good job. And basically, it looked like the sky was going to fall in, as you said, after they were really non-competitive in the first two games, and the starting pitching was just flat out awful in the first two games. It was looking like a 4-game sweep at that point. I swear it was. It was looking like a 4-game sweep. So
it was looking like 4 blowouts.
So Lynn and Matz intervened. And to me, that was probably the biggest positive of the opening 4 games. We can talk about Victor Scott the second down the road here, but I thought he was really impressive, all things considered. Even if you look at the box score for the series, you'd say, well, what's the big deal? You had to watch the games to see how good he was. So there were some things to like. I mean, the bullpen, for whatever flaws it had, struck out a high number of hitters. I mean, he really did a great job with the strikeout stuff. But, in a series, listen, any team, any good team, I also do believe, you got to have the perspective. Like, well, you do, of course. I'm talking in general. We all do. Any team in baseball, including the very best teams in baseball, can go into Dodger Stadium at any point of the year and lose 3 out of 4 games. I mean, it's not exactly stuff where it's like, oh my gosh, how could this be? It can happen to a lot of teams.
I would argue it will happen to most teams.
Yeah, right.
4-game series. That's why a split would have felt so amazing.
That's right.
Because most teams aren't going to do that, and definitely teams that frankly the Cardinals were outplayed pretty much the entire weekend. I mean, and they almost got a split. And listen, for the record, I'm glad it's a while until we have to play the Dodgers again. Watching these games, there was a whole lot of, oh my God, Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman are up again. Did we just get those guys? I mean, so that is going to be quite, and it's funny.
You got that trip to LA. The Dodgers are out of the way.
It's out of the way. Exactly. It's out of the way.
You don't have to worry about going in there again this year, unless of course, in the playoffs, right? Well,
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously. But I mean, I think you're right, and I think that you get that out of the way. That's why a split would have been amazing. But if you had told me going into the series, you're going to win 3 out of 4. I mean, you're going to lose 3 out of 4 to the Dodgers. I tell you, after the first 2 games, I'm like, oh my God, losing 3 out of 4 sounds amazing. But
that's right.
Like the fact they almost got split, and that Sunday game was frustrating. And listen, if they go in and get swept by the Padres, then okay, then we're in trouble. But at a certain level, I did find it encouraging. And it's also when you have 2 games like that where Thompson and Miklasz get shelled, it's nice to have Lance Lynn and Steven Matz starting rather than, Drew Rom and Drake Woodford, for example. Like at a certain level, those guys did kind of settle it down and gets a good offense. I mean, the Dodgers are so good. Like Will Smith is an all-star, and like I think Joe Sheet has made the case for like if he can keep it going for a while, could be a quiet, like the way catchers are considered, like a quiet Hall of Fame dude. Like Will Smith is a great great and you get to Will Smith, you're like, all right, we can take a breath for a second and like Teoscar Hernandez hit 3 homers over the weekend. The Dodgers are just stacked, and I think that it speaks well to the Cardinals that they were able to get out of a situation where it really looked extremely dire. At some point, and almost got a split. Obviously, I don't want to have the soft bigotry of low expectations. We are was the Cardinals team that you do not want to celebrate going 1-3 over a series. But you see what it could have been. You see what
you also have to have perspective. It actually could have been a lot worse, and there were some encouraging things coming out. And that's the thing. I'm already I'm actually doing this ahead of schedule. Like in other words, I don't have anything to be frustrated about, but I'm already frustrated in anticipation of like every time, they play tough teams. They do some good things. They go to Dodger Stadium. They lose 3 out of 4. I don't know. Do people expect you and I to be like start shrieking about how they suck and everybody should be
I will
fired?
happily shriek when it is time.
Yeah,
but it's
people can't have it both ways. You can't. there was so much fear and loathing about this first road trip. Oh my God, like I joked in one of my columns at Scoops. It's just like, well, they have a 7-game road trip, and then of course they'll come back with an 0-11 record. Somehow they would lose 11 games, not 7. And it's like, so everyone's like, oh man, they're going to get killed. They're going to get killed. And it's just like, well, okay, they win a game at Dodger Stadium, should have won 2. So yeah, that's the point. It's perspective based on expectations. I'm okay with it. I'm not thrilled. I'm okay. Will Leitch isn't thrilled, but he finds it to be okay because it was looking like a damn 4-game sweep there for quite a while. So, yeah, I mean, you got to measure all this stuff about what we expect from the Cardinals. And if anyone's telling you they expected the Cardinals to go in and even split the series, but to win the series and to go down to San Diego and just win 3 straight or win 2 out of 3, like come back with a 4-3 record, 5-2 record. No, I don't think they're telling you the truth because everyone was into the disaster mode. So that's got to be factored into what Will Leitch and Bernie Miklasz have to say about what happened at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, and again, like, it is disappointing. I was disappointed with how Sunday night ended, but you definitely, if they would have held on to that win on Sunday night, and let's not forget, like, there seemed to be some conflicting reports whether Helsley was available in the 9th inning or not available in the 9th inning. I'm not sure it really matters. They were down.
Here we go, right?
Exactly. Like, and there's a little bit of that, and whatever. That's its own. That's a Helsley problem. But at a certain level, it's hard to be like, well, where was Helsley? I don't know. You were just yelling at Helsley yesterday for them, so don't act like he's somehow some sort of shutdown dude. But two, I mean, that rain delay really hurt them. That rain delay really, really hurt them. The fact that you've got John King, like, I'll put it this way. If John King is the guy in a key September game where the Cardinals are playing for the division title in the 8th inning of a 1-run game that you're desperately trying to win, yes, things are bad. Things are bad in that. But
he was awful Sunday.
He was awful, but like they were right. Like there was nowhere else to go. Like there were nowhere else to go. He'd just been brought up because O'Reilly, who I have to say, for what it's worth, that O'Brien fella, like, I know he's hurt and we'll see what happens. He's got some stuff. I watched that inning. He looked a little wild. He almost like hit a guy, but like, that guy, if they can hone, like, whenever I think of the Kai Bloom thing, I think of like a Riley O'Brien. Like, that feels like, well, I know he's on the injured list, and maybe he won't come back, and maybe he'll end up throwing 1 inning all year. But the whole way the way smart teams like the Rays build their bullpen are with dudes like that. You're like, hey, where did this guy come from? He's got this incredible movement on his pitches. Let's hone this. That's encouraging rather than to be like, I don't know, what failed starter do we have lying around to be able to toss it?
No.
What dude did the Blue Jays just wave that will just get us some innings so we don't get destroyed this weekend? That's encouraging, but like, I think it's clear that John King is not that guy. And if John King is in a situation like that at any time the rest of this season, things have gone wrong.
Yeah, he doesn't. Listen, he was a bit of a. He was a bit of a sorcerer last season with the Cardinals. Like, listen, the bottom line was positive, and so I'm noting that again. But he doesn't miss bats. I mean, he's a big time ground ball guy, which is great. He didn't get a ground ball with Max Muncy up, that's for sure. But but he there is a lot of smoke and mirrors going on with him. Like he'll manage to kind of trick his way out of some jams, and then boom. It's like like for example, everyone made a big deal, and I understand it. I'm not saying they were wrong to make a big deal about it. Max Muncy does not hit left-handed. He hit 155 against lefties last year. A lot of strikeouts too. Okay, it was the only move that Marmol could make under the circumstances. But then again, John King is not a shutdown lefty against left-handed hitters. Last year, they hit 347 against them. So let's not get carried away, right? You framed it correctly. For them to have to even rely on John King kind of in a high leverage spot like that, that's not good. I mean, that won't be good if we see that a lot this year. And it tells you the bullpen's really short, And
I don't think that's the result of poor planning. Like,
no, it wasn't.
It got messed up this weekend. Like it got messed up, and frankly, it got messed up. But honestly, and this leads to the thing that we talked about earlier, the Cardinals should have been up 7 7-0 in that game, and they weren't. They should have been up 6-0 or 7-0 or something in that game. They didn't. They had a 4-run lead.
That's right.
They should have had a bigger lead, and I think
Much
that
bigger.
speaks. All told, I would say I am not. It is too early to be concerned about anything, but certainly the reason that they did not split this series or do better was not the pitching. Like, I think Miklasz and Thompson were not good. Miklasz was super not good and like immediately not good in a very predictable way that Miklasz was not good. That doesn't mean he's done or there's nothing left, but like, that was what I was worried about. Miklasz is going to be like this year. And that's exactly what he was like. And Thompson, I think that like, I mean, I understood the idea of Thompson as a left-handed hitters, but you're asking a lot of him to be in that spot in the first place. And if Sonny Gray's healthy, he stopped pitching that game anyway.
Well, there's that one real quick one, Thompson.
Yeah.
The thing that bothered me, and this has happened with him, and it's like, I think we need to talk about this very briefly. I don't understand with Zack Thompson, who I actually like, and I think has got a future, but what is it with this the fluctuations in velocity? Like his fastball velocity was way down the other night. What the hell is up with that? Like, he can't maintain his velocity. And I look at that and I'm like, well, how can you rely on him? I mean, because this is a pattern. This happens quite a bit. There's no reason in the world why he shouldn't be able to maintain his fastball velocity. Why does it disappear? I don't get it. So yeah, I kind of look at him and I want to like him and say, oh, he'll be fine as a 6 starter. But I'm not, I just can't say that. Not after what I saw the other night, diminishing velocity and many home runs. Forget it.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that like, I don't know. I mean, I know we didn't talk, we correctly poo-pooed the idea that we go after Jordan Montgomery, but they still feel a bit short.
Sure.
They still feel a starter short because I agree with you. I like the idea of Thompson, but yeah. And listen, they've kind of screwed Thompson around a little bit.
Sure.
They've moved around. You're a starter, you're a reliever. Like, I think there's a reason he could have some frustration with that, but he certainly did not inspire much confidence. Michaelis didn't either, but the offense didn't do anything this weekend.
They're really disappointing.
It was basically just Goldschmidt. Arenado finally got a hit, but whoo, howdy.
Was right.
He looked like everything was at check swing. Like he looked in that when Arenado is off, Arenado obviously is like, he's a potential, probably a future Hall of Famer. Like, I mean, not if it's like this the rest of his career, but certainly like Arenado is great and we're happy to have Arenado and he's great and he's awesome and so on. But when he is not confident and when he is in between like that, he looks like he doesn't know how to play baseball. And I think that you saw that at the plate really until he got the hit his one hit, which was a terrible pitch, by the way. But like, he's so in between that like he was check swinging pop-ups to the second base.
I know, man.
Like when he's messed up like that, he looks like again, he's a guy that gets in his own head. He's a guy that he's very much a feel player. And I think also, frankly, Arenado is having a hard time adjusting, frankly, a harder time adjusting than Goldschmidt has had adjusting to being older. I think Arenado has always, things have come kind of naturally, not to say it doesn't work, but because he does work, but a lot of things always kind of naturally to him. And he's always kind of had this certain like casual confidence. And I think, he's a little bit slower. His bat speed's a little bit, it doesn't mean he's not still going to be a good hitter, but he feels like someone that when he's not hitting well, it doesn't look like he's in a slump. It looks like he's entirely lost. And I find it a little discouraging to see that on the season's first weekend.
There was something, let me just add something. I'm going to throw one more thing into that. I was, I'm going to get the exact phrasing wrong, but it all means the same thing. I mean, very early in that game, the ESPN crew was talking about Arenado, and he's kind of doesn't have his timing down. Okay, that's a hitting thing. Whatever. That's baseball stuff. Whatever. But the point was made that it's like, boy, the frustrations really getting to him early, and it's like, whoa. The thing I didn't like at all about Arenado last year, I didn't like it at all. When the adversity struck and the team was starting to play really bad, I mean, he chewed himself up inside, and he gets frustrated way too easily, and he gets, and his frustration is too extreme. We saw that last summer. We saw it a lot. The body language was horrible. And already, I mean, come on. It's the 4th game of the season. What do you mean frustration's eating him up? Come on, right?
I'm not even that frustrated yet.
This is what it's going to be for the rest of his contract. whenever the team's not playing all that great and he's not doing much at the plate, he just sort of just mentally becomes unhinged and loses it. I don't like this, man. I'll be a hell of a player. Is going to be in Hall of Fame, but I don't like this, man. You got to keep your stuff together a little bit, dude.
Yeah, and it is too early for that. And listen, I know he was in front of his home, like he's from the area, he's from Southern California, his family was there. I actually thought the Dodgers were going to be the team that traded for him, actually, back in the day. I think they made a lot of sense. So, I think that he does press a little bit, maybe,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like clearly, like there were guys like Walker didn't hit very well, Gorman didn't hit very well, Burleson didn't hit very well, though he's had 3 hits. Gorman actually did okay, but Walker didn't hit well. But I don't look at those guys and think, oh man, they're just so messed up right now. Like there's
that's
some
right.
good pitchers, good guys coming in. Contreras went 1 for 10, but Contreras had like good swings on the ball. He walked a couple of
A
times.
lot of strikeouts, though.
Yeah, like you see, but Contreras failed in the way that I expect Contreras will occasionally fail. Walker the same sort of way. Gorman the same. Gorman struck out 9 times, for crying out loud. Like I do kind of expect that a little bit from Gorman. Arenado looked like he was just completely gone entirely, and that's got to change because he's gone in a familiar way, in a worrisome way that he's got to get turned around. And listen, we saw it last year, and he came around and did fine. But that's when you look at the offense this weekend. It's a lot of that's Dodger pitching, but I think a lot of that was Arenado was a dead out every time he came up, and it cost him. If he gets a hit when he's up with the bases loaded, they win that game Sunday. Like they've got runs in that game.
Look at Victor Scott II, man. I mean, Dodger Stadium.
Scott. Yeah.
It's a wonderful place to make your major league debut, and it's great that his parents were out there. It's outstanding, and okay, he doesn't have a hit through the first 3 games. He used his speed to manufacture a couple of runs. There were some things I really like, but the bottom line is he didn't have a hit his first 3 games in the big leagues. It's not a big deal. I'm just making a point. He was our best player last night. From a position player standpoint. I mean, he was 2 for 3. He doubled, he walked, and then the night before, he's the Manfred man in extra inning, and he's at second base. He scores on 2 ground balls. So his speed was a big factor in their win Saturday night. And then he shook off the fact that he was 0 for 11. Over 11 with quite a few strikeouts in his first 3 games. He shook it off. He didn't get frustrated. He didn't get overwhelmed by the moment. He went out there last night, had a hell of a game. That was such a good sign. Because, you see him go over 11, and it's not like you say, oh, well, he's going to have to go back to Memphis. I wasn't thinking that at all. I was just thinking, man, I'd like to see him just get some success. But watching him in that whole series, I never once thought, dude looks overmatched. Dude looks overwhelmed. Man, but he doesn't have much confidence. I never thought that for a minute. I mean, he looks sure and smooth and steady, and he held his confidence very well. And like I said, you look at the box score for the series, you say 2 for 14, 5 strikeout. What's a big deal? We're not saying it's a big deal. We're just saying the way he got better as that series went on, to me, that's a good sign. That's all I'm saying. And for him to be the best player they had in game 4 of that series, they could have won it because of him. He was one of the reasons they could have won it. Him and Matz, for example. So I really liked what I saw from him. Sometimes the numbers they don't tell you the whole story.
We may have to be dealing with him for a little bit longer because I'm a subscriber to Will Carroll's excellent injury related newsletter. And this is what he writes about Tommy Edman today. I'll let me up front that I could not confirm any of this. I have 2 sources tell me 2 different things, but the worry is that Tommy Edman may need a second surgery on his wrist. He's scheduled for MRI midweek. I don't know why the delay, but they will give doctors an idea if it's healing and if they think the problem is going worse. The difference is what the problem in my sources. So what the problem might be, either one takes him back to surgery, another half season of healing and rehab before he get back out there. Losing Edman until the All-Star break and likely beyond is the death blow for the Cardinals, but certainly makes Victor Scott step up. I think there are, not outside of just Carroll, there appear to be increasing worries about Edman and how soon he's going to be back. Now Carlson will be back at some point, but Scott's going to get some more run here. is what it like. Certainly, even if you think it's not the worst case scenario that Will Carroll's writing about Edman, it's still going to be a while. And Scott's got to get some more run. And I did not watch this weekend. Like, you think about what Mason Wynn looked like for the first couple of weeks last year. If the Cardinals would have been in a playoff chase, you'd have been like, you got to get him out of here. This guy can't play every day. This guy's dead in the lineup. But the Cardinals, because they were last year, were so miserable, you could give Wynn the rope. And I think you're seeing the results of that. I think you're seeing the results already of Wynn getting the rope to be able to do that last year. But he would have been unplayable if the Cardinals would have been in a playoff chase. Scott, right now, his first 4 games of his major league career, I don't sweat in the slightest if he's got to play for 2 or 3 more weeks. And hopefully he plays beyond that. But I don't think, like, it's clear having Scott in the lineup does not make the Cardinals worse. And that's a lot. I think it makes them better, but the minimum is it doesn't make them worse. And that's exciting for a dude that literally is like basically skipped AAA entirely and no one really thought was going to be here.
And I thought Mason Wynn would look really good during the series too. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's encouraging. It's fun to be back in the early Bader days of, oh, there's a fly ball. As soon as I see the ball off the bat to center field, I'm like, oh, it's going to be caught. Like, it's really nice to have that reassurance because Scott is really good out there. He's not got on base enough yet to really have him be like a problem on the base path. But frankly, no one in the Cardinals got on base enough over the weekend to get you too excited about that. He at least got on 3 times, which is more than, say, Arenado did, or Contreras did, or for that matter, Donovan did, to say the very least. I still am not too worried. I will say I came away from the weekend more impressed with the Dodgers pitching than worried about the Cardinals offense. But we'll see. We'll see if that's the case against San Diego, war with the Marlins coming up this week. So general takeaways on that, though. Overarching, Bernie, I will say I did not look. I did not look at this weekend and think the Cardinals are in trouble. They've done nothing. This feels like 2023 all over again. It did not feel that way for me. Now, if Steven Matz gets hurt, or if Sonny Gray takes longer to get back, or if Kyle Gibson is terrible, it may start feeling like 2023 again. But the fact that you got two good starting pitching performances from 2 people that you are going to be very much relying on against a really good offense, that, like, again, you would have liked to have split, but if you ask me what my takeaway from the weekend, Steven Matz and Lance Lynn pitched really well. I think Lance could have gone longer if there had been the rain delay. I'm going to take that as good news as I can have.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, yeah, it's we'll see. Yeah, the Edman thing's is a debacle. You know, it's just mishandled from the start. So I'm not surprised to hear there could be more trouble there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to wonder if we will see Edman by June, if I'm being honest. And again, like, you know, that's not the end of the world because I think it's not great. It's not. You're right. It's not handled well.
But it's just this strange stupidity the Cardinals have, or stupid things keep going on. I mean, you know, that wrist was bothering him for 2 years. And it took them forever to deal with it, and for him forever to deal with it and just recognize it's a problem. And then even when they made, okay, this is a problem, he basically played a bunch of meaningless games instead of doing a Brendan Donovan thing, which is to just shut it down and go have surgery so you're ready for 2024. See, this is one of the things that disturbs me most about the Cardinals. For an organization has done so much winning and has such a proud tradition, and they've been incredibly successful during the Bill DeWitt years overall. Boy, do they do some dumb things, you know, and things that could be avoided is my point. You know, some things you can't help it. I mean, guy runs into the wall, he breaks a clavicle or whatever. What are you going to do? But there's so many things that happen with them that could be avoided. But yet it happens because I don't know what it is. Is it a lack of foresight? Are they not pragmatic enough? I don't know. But these injury things become much bigger when you would think they'd be able to take care of it just by being a little smarter. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel.
They also were obviously caught somewhat with their pants down with this because they they extended Edman. Right?
Well, I mean,
and I know they bought his arm. Like, I know it's
exactly.
Not like
exactly. That's right. Good point. I'm glad you brought that up too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, clearly they thought it was fine and it's not. And again, there are, like, if this is Paul Goldschmidt or Nolan Arenado or Sonny Gray that's out to the All-Star break, I'm more concerned than Edman. Like, there are people that can help in that regard, but Edman does make them a better team. He's been a key to what they do, and it's worrisome. It's worrisome in that regard. But I will say, if the offense hits like this all year, it's going to be a bad year. I just don't think it's going.
I don't think they're going to hit like this all year. I really don't. But boy, did the Dodgers starting pitchers work those guys over. I mean, it's just,
they're good, man.
Yeah.
Like I think Ben Frederickson wrote a good piece saying, like, where is the Cardinals' Bobby Miller?
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart, because the Cardinals, those are the dudes the Cardinals used to have.
Well, no, and to me, that's to me, and I've been harping on that. I've been really hitting that angle heavy. They, when people just go nuts over Jordan Montgomery, I understand why they go nuts, because they're frustrated and he would fill a void. But there is a huge underlying issue here which was primarily responsible for last year's disaster. They let their ability to draft and develop pitchers go to hell, basically, and they don't have the kind of guys we see everywhere else, not young guys anyway. So. I've been making an issue of this for a long time, and I think that it's going to get better under with Chaim Bloom's influence, things like that. And they picked up a couple of good arms in those sell-offs last June, but July. But yeah, there needs to be more attention. Look, Jordan Montgomery's gone; he's not coming here. So to me, the thing to focus on is, like, okay, have they learned anything at all from what has been a stunning demise of their ability to develop young starting pitching and young relievers as well? Because that's why they're in the situation they're in. And that's why they had to sign, if we want to call Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson stopgaps, they had to sign a couple stopgap starters, and it's a predicament, but they only have themselves to blame. That's the story. That's the story, because if they had taken care of their business internally with drafting and developing pitching, to have a nice supply always on the way to St. Louis, there wouldn't be in a situation where you have to sign stopgap guys, or you have 90% of the fan base mewling about Jordan Montgomery as if he's Sandy Koufax or something, So anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And okay, so and I think that, like, I think we may see that in the next couple of years, but we're certainly not seeing any Bobby Millers right now.
Nope.
Stretch the imagination. So other takeaways, short takeaways from the weekend, guys I was encouraged by. I'd say Ivan Herrera looks good behind the plate. I'm starting to feel more comfortable about a Herrera move. Not to say Contreras is bad behind the plate. I think Contreras is perfectly fine behind the plate, but anything you can do, I'm kind of under the assumption that almost any time we have Cardinals facing a left-handed pitcher, Herrera is probably catching, Contreras is probably the DH, and I am totally comfortable with that. Herrera,
right.
The decision to let Kisner go, which I wasn't sure they were going to do, by the way. I wasn't sure they were really going to push Herrera. Herrera's kind of been pushed off quite a few times. The fact that they are having more trust in Herrera, I think, is correct, and I'm excited to kind of see that happen a little bit more. So I was encouraged by him. I was encouraged by Gallegos. I think now Gallegos is always, anytime I'm encouraged by Gallegos, I get nervous because they'll be like, oh, Gallegos is going great. Let's pitch him every day now. And that's how you destroy Gallegos. But I did think that I found him encouraging. I thought Gallegos looked good. So Gallegos and Herrera were a couple of guys I really kind of felt comfortable with. You didn't really see much from Walker or those guys or Gorman. But again, I think a lot of that is the Dodgers kind of sitting that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. No doubt.
So this week they have 3 in San Diego, which I learned what San Diego means from Anchorman. So thank you for that. So the Cardinals have 3 in San Diego. The matchups, I believe, are Gibson. Michaelis gets Darvish. Gibson gets Waldron tonight. It'd be interesting to see Gibson. I think Gibson. A lot of what my Oriole friends always let me know that, like, listen, don't expect to win because of Gibson, but don't expect to lose because of Gibson, which to me is like, that's exactly what I want out of a starting pitcher. Like the 2 games that the starting pitcher gave the Cardinals a chance this weekend, they won one and they should have won the other one. That's all we want out of this rotation. You'd hope he'll do the Padres. Then Zack Thompson comes again. You kind of would like the Cardinals to maybe win the first two in this series, because I don't know about that Zack Thompson, Joe Musgrove game on Wednesday. And then the home opener in Busch Stadium. Brian Leitch and Sally Leitch will be there. I will not be. I am in Florida, but my parents will be there for opening day. I always remember an opening day that I went to in college. It was the Cardinals that started the season 0-6, and it was very worrisome, but they got a walk-off homer by Willie McGee in like the 11th or 12th inning. We drove all the way back to Champaign at the end of the night. Even when your team is 0-6, opening day in Busch Stadium is wonderful. Cardinals are not going to be 0-6, but it'd be nice to be able to be a little bit better position. That Marlins team looks rough right now, so I'm hopeful about that series. But I would love to get 2 out of 3 from San Diego and go into that Marlins series not feeling under the gun a little bit. Are you? I'm curious. Before I have a question, I have a thing
Sure.
I want to tell you from a question. But you've been around for so many opening days. I don't know if you're probably not going this year, but like I'm curious. Do you agree? Every home fan base thinks that their opening day is particularly special, but I do think the Cardinals have a good case for that. Like, we'll have all the Red Jackets. I assume Wainwright will be there and La Russa and everyone else will be there. I always make sure to tune in an hour and a half before the game when the Cardinals have an opening.
No, I listen, I'm not sure. I wish, like, in the last, few years or so, I would have watched, like, made sure to record, if nothing else, to watch the Yankees opening day ceremonies at home. I'm sure they're pretty special too. I don't know about the Red Sox. I think they probably do it up really well. But no, I don't. Listen, if you're talking about track record, you're talking about history of this very, very special home opener every year for the longest time. It's been like that. I don't see how any other franchise beats it. And this isn't like us doing our usual, we're the best fans of baseball. It's not that. It's just the fact that it's all that history's on the field,
and everybody comes back,
and everybody comes back, and it's an incredible thing. And it's a tough, I wrote about this last week, really briefly, but it's really kind of sad when you just like take a minute and remember, like, who's not there anymore. Boy, the Cardinals, none of us are going to win that game going up against time. But the Cardinals have lost so many of their immortal players, in the last several years, going back to, since 2013, or 2011. So many of them are gone, and it's really kind of sad. But on the other hand, you look at still how many great players they have that are still alive and well and among us for that home opener in 2024. That's pretty special to have that many great stars still that you can claim. Okay, the Cardinals have had. We've been thrilled to have so many outstanding players, and here they are on the field, the ones that could still be with us. So I feel strongly that way. It's still really special.
It's great. It reminds you, and again, not to get to what I talked about in the season preview, but it reminds you that, sorry, the DeWitts are not, like, the DeWitts own the team, and Marmol manages the team, and Mo and Gersh run the team. But like, the Cardinals are a public trust. Like, they were, all of these people that will be out on the field, they were there before the DeWitts and before Mo and before Marmol and before anybody that plays for this team. But the fans weren't. The fans remember them. The fans are a part of this. They last longer than all of it, which is why it's so important to not have 2 last place seasons in a row.
Absolutely.
Okay, the last thing I want to do is shout out to John Terry. John Terry is a Cardinals fan here, not here, I guess I'm in Florida, but ordinarily he's in Georgia, which is where I live. He is from Smyrna, which is always good to remind everyone that's where the Braves play. They do not play in Atlanta. They play in suburban Smyrna, Cobb County, but he is from Smyrna, and he sent me a picture. Saying, no questions or comments today. Just wanted to introduce you to Phoebe, the newest Cardinals fan in Smyrna. We came home with her the day before opening day, which was very thoughtful of her. I will do my very best to not pass down sports trauma to her, but will probably fail. Thank you to you and Bernie for accompanying us during the 2024 season. He sent
That's
a picture, and he said, for what it's worth, she started screaming the moment Muncy clobbered that ball.
Good time.
Already a Cardinals fan. So it's a wonderful picture. I also feel like the crossover between Cardinals fans and people that have a lot of vintage vinyl in their background background, and listen to this podcast is high. So he has a lot of vintage vinyl in his background. Shout out, congratulations, John. Phoebe looks wonderful. She's going to be a wonderful Cardinals fan. Thank you for listening. Shout out to you and the Smyrna Braves.
That's a fantastic. I love that. Thank you.
And a reminder of just, what this podcast and what the Cardinals are all supposed to be about. Okay, so I am predicting as the way I do this, bringing back the tradition of doing this, I'm predicting 4-2 for the Cardinals this week. 4-2 before we come back on Monday to host the Phillies. Enjoy opening day, everyone. If you see Brian and Sally Leitch, they have standing room only tickets. God bless them. My dad is 74 and my mom is an age that I will not say or she will punch me in the face. But they will be in standing room only seats on opening day. They're driving across Georgia to St. Louis to see my sister and to see to Cardinals on opening day. That speaks to how much this all means. So Bernie, we'll be back next Monday to talk about the presumably by then first place Cardinals. Until then, Bernie, have a great week and hello from Florida. Look at me at the Marlins game tonight. I'm sure you'll see me because there'll only be like 30 people there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, yeah, that'll be sparsely attended.
Yes. All right. Have a good one, buddy. We'll
see you,
talk
buddy.
next week.
See you, Will.